Pete, do you or Brent, do you guys have anything to add before we get started? All right. We'll let a couple more people, it looks like they're connecting on here. And I'm excited to share today's topic with you. So just really quick, my name is Julie Wright.
Sorry about that, Julie.
That's okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a few issues getting in this morning, and I had a couple people text me they're having some issues getting in. It's a new screen when you log in for me.
Yeah, it was for me as well.
Yeah, so I can't get in using my computer here.
Okay, and what I did was I just copied those digits that were in the last part of that link.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I went to Zoom, I just entered that as my meeting ID.
Okay.
So that's one way to do it. Whatever it is, 7 digits or 10 digits, that's your meeting ID. So people could just use that number as well on Zoom.
That's what they're asking for is a meeting ID. Okay.
Yep, that's what all that is.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll kind of start slow and just welcome everyone else that comes in. So really what I want to talk to you about today it's called a shift for good. And it's a new concept if we wrap our brain around it, but it's really not anything new, but I would say it's more required now than ever. And it's going to continue to go this way. This is a trend that started in about 2010. We're 11 years in and it's only gaining traction. And so if we don't make our business a mission-driven company in some way, there's good chance that in another 10 years, we might get left in the dust. Now, this is going to vary industry by industry a little bit, but this conversation, it's called different things, but it's going to continue to come up. And so I want to give you some really good examples and really explain what this is. And then I want us to take some time to have some conversation about what our shift towards good might be, what our community is looking for, what we're passionate about. So let's talk about that a little bit today. So I would say prior to 2010, which wasn't that long ago, if you think about how long businesses have been around since the beginning of time, there was always two definite categories. You could either have a for-profit business or you could have a non-profit business. And it was always pretty clear that a for-profit business mission was to generate profit, to make money. Pretty cut and dry, right? And then a non-profit business was to deliver a service. They generally had a bigger mission. They were doing good things for the community, for the planet, for the world, whatever it was. And it was kind of this black and white two categories. So people, when they told you, I have a for-profit business, okay. I have a nonprofit business, and that was pretty cut and dry. In 2010, there was a middle category created, but it was created kind of under the radar, and there's never been a clear definition, a clear name, but it's right in the middle, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm actually going to jump to our last slide just so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and call this charity as a nonprofit. So they're not generating a revenue or profit. They generally have a bigger mission that they're trying to accomplish. On the right-hand side is a for-profit company. But now in the middle, this could be called a company for good. This could be called a social enterprise. This could be called just a company that's giving back. This could be a company that, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But really what we're realizing, we're gonna go through today kind of talking about different generations. And this category was really created when the Millennial Generation, for and with the Millennial Generation. So I'm going to jump back just a little bit more, kind of jumping around today, but I think this is important to kind of have this context. So the Millennial Generation, the birth years kind of vary, but it could be from about 1980 to 1994. I've seen it from like 1985 to the year 2000, somewhere around there. I was born in 1985, but I feel like I have more of a Gen X spirit than a millennial spirit. So it's also kind of if you're an old soul or how you identify. So when I get called a millennial, I get a little bit like, I don't think that fits me. But I also have 4 staff members that are right in that millennial group. And for a long time, millennials were kind of viewed as like it was a bad thing to be a millennial. Well, these millennials, they're doing some amazing things. And so this idea that there is a third category between profit and nonprofit, this was really created by that generation. And now this next generation, the Gen Zs, they are running with this. And the Gen Z generation won't know life without this third category. And so if we think of really talking with anyone that was born around the year 2000 or after, which now these people are 21 years old, 25 years old, which is odd to think about. So if you're selling to anyone who's between 20 and 25, this is an important thing to you. Even anyone that's probably between 20 and 30, this is an important message for you. Would everyone in the group say that you deal with at least, some of your clients are between the age of 20 and 30? Yeah, I would say we all are, right? Typically, that age group has more spendable income. They have, because they're maybe not necessarily supporting a family. There could be a 2-income household. So typically that generation between 20 and 30 spend a large percentage of their income. So this is a big demographic that we need to sell to because they're the ones coming to get fast food. They're the ones going through the drive-thru for coffee. They're the ones that can make a buying decision and maybe not have to work that into a budget of someone who's maybe has 3 kids at home, is saving for college, just had a 16-year-old that they had to buy a car. That next generation may be a little bit tighter with their money, even though they're making more money. But our millennials and our Gen Zs have the most income that they can spend. And so we really need to make sure that we're marketing to them as well. All right. So right now, if I asked you if you were a for-profit business or a nonprofit business, does everyone kind of understand right away which one of those categories they fit into, right? And everyone can probably think of a local nonprofit or think of a local profit business really off the top of your head, right? Okay, and now I want to talk a little bit more about this generational gap. So I know we talked about this millennial group and this Gen Z group, but now let's go to the extreme. Let's go to these baby boomers. So these are going to be the people that now are in their, their 60s, their 70s, somewhere around there, the baby boomer generation. Now, when we really talk about different generations, it's not only their buying habits, but it's how they view the world. This was one example that I heard in a talk one time that really resonated. The boomer generation, and if anyone's a boomer on this call, I would love to hear your opinion. They're the waffles. So your family's in one little square, your job's in one little square, your exercise routine's in a square, your church life's in a square, your workout routine is in a square, your grocery shopping is in a square, because they all kind of have their own place. So the way I heard it described is when a boomer goes to work, let's say someone that works at a bank and they're 65 years old. When they go to work, they are in work mode and they're thinking about work. After work, if they go into the gym, they're in gym mode. Then if they go to their family, they're in family mode. But everything is very compartmentalized in their life. Anyone who is in that age group or maybe has parents in that age group, would you guys kind of agree with that? Does that resonate with you a little bit? Now, the millennial generation is different. Everything is kind of together. We talk about a pizza or spaghetti. So while I'm at work, I also might slip away to go take a yoga class in the middle of the day. Or I might go online and I might order my groceries from Hy-Vee.com. Or I might be looking up summer activities for my kids, knowing that I'm going to slip away over my lunch break to go have lunch with my student at school. And so a millennial, their life is all together. So there is kind of this misconception that millennials are not hard workers, and that is not the case. Millennials are very hard workers. They're very motivated. They have great ideas. The difference is millennials view their life as one pizza, and everything goes together. My workout routine, my groceries, my kids, my vacation plans, my work, everything is in a balance in my life. And I might work at 11 o'clock at night. I might return emails at 11 o'clock at night, but I also might order my groceries online at 2 in the afternoon because it's just one life that's kind of together. Does that kind of resonate?
But as a baby boomer, you see them on their cell phones. They may be doing that, but you think they're not working.
Right. And that's tough because, yeah, for a baby boomer, when you go to work, you're there to work. You're not there to order your groceries. You're not there to book a flight. You're not there to do those things. You're there to work. But then the baby boomer generation is also one that spent a lot of time playing solitaire on their work computers because to them they were at work, but there's still, there's still downtime. So, but a millennial might use that downtime to work on other parts of their life, knowing that they might do some work on weekends while they're on vacation, at home, things like that. Like even my staff that are millennials, when they go on vacation, they often take their laptops. And I don't require that, I don't ask that, but for them to check some emails and do, if they're just on vacation, but they have some time where they're just sitting around the hotel, they are not against returning some emails or just because, again, they're a pizza. Their work life being mixed in with their vacation time is okay. Where if I ask a baby boomer, can you please send this report while you're on vacation? That's a totally different waffle box. And they're like, no, I'm on vacation. I'm not going to work. And so there's goods and bads to both of those.
Julie, I understand that for professionals. It makes sense in the professional world, but I'm not so sure it does in the hourly.
That's true. And that's very true because they can't work in your kitchen when they're on vacation.
Right.
So that might be a clear distinction that you have to make with your employees. While you're here, I need you to be here. And so that's true. There's always exceptions to the rule, but you might have to explain that because to a millennial, again, their whole life is kind of intertwined. So they don't have that cut and dry work, not work. My husband and I, we own an ice cream shop and we hire mostly teenagers. And we tried our best to put these cell phone policies in place where, you can only use it if there's no customers and if you're caught up on dishes and blah, blah. And we could never make that separation. So now cell phones go in the locker and you are not allowed to have them because we found that these teenagers, and this would be the Gen Zs, could not separate the cell phone time from the work time. And the reason they can't is because their life is intermixed. So posting about your track meet while you're at work, that's all your life. And so we had to set stricter boundaries and just saying, okay, then just no cell phones. And it's not a punishment, but that's what we had to do to help them make that separation. So Janet, you might find that too, that you might have to, you can't assume that they're going to get to work and put on the blinders for work. That might have to be a policy that's in place. All right, so now let's talk, now that we kind of understand that generations, let's talk a little bit about how that goes for giving. So as a baby boomer, we have our boxes and we have our charitable giving in a box. So whether that's tithing to your church, whether that's donating to the American Cancer Society, whether that's donating to Boy Scouts and buying Boy Scout cookies, whatever that is, or Girl Scout cookies, we have that in a box. But a millennial, their charitable giving goes into everything they do. So if they care about the environment, let's say that that's something that's near and dear to their heart, they're going to wrap that into their buying decisions. If juvenile diabetes is close to their heart and they want to raise funds for research, that is mixed into everything that they do. It's not in its own box. And in 2010, a company called Tom's Shoes with Blake, his name is Blake, he figured this out. He may have not been the first one, but he was the first one that did it on a large scale. And I would say he did it with a bang. Do you guys know what Tom's shoes are? Now there's high heels and flip-flops and all these things, but it really started with these very simple canvas shoes. They were kind of comfortable and kind of stylish, but they weren't the best shoes. They were just, okay shoes. They're around that $35 price point. They were very simply made. But Blake started something that was really revolutionary, and he started the snowball to go down the hill. So he decided that his Tom's shoes, for every pair of shoes that they sold, they would donate to a third world country to someone who needed shoes. And there was a lot of confusion when he came out because people said, "Oh, so you're a nonprofit?" And he said, "No, we are a for-profit business." And they said, "Oh, so you're making a profit off the shoes you're donating?" I said, "No, we are donating the shoes." And again, he created this third category where there wasn't a third category. And there was a lot of confusion, and people really questioned and doubted him and said, "You can't be a for-profit business whose mission is good. That's not going to work." Well, it started in 2006, and he has donated over 35 million pairs of shoes to people in need. In 2014, so that would be 8 years after he started his company, Bain Capital bought 50% of the company for $625 million. So we can make an assumption that in 2014, 8 years after starting, his company was worth, millions, if not, millions and millions of dollars. Now, how many other shoe companies started in 2006 with probably a better looking or more comfortable shoe, but it didn't take the traction because it didn't have the mission behind it? So people were willing to spend $35 on a shoe that wasn't that stylish and wasn't that comfortable, knowing that they were donating a pair of shoes. So if I buy a pair of shoes, they're donating one to a child in need in a third world country. And that was huge. That might have made that buying decision easier. So their initial campaign was 1 for 1. And so they advertised their shoes, but equally they advertised their mission. And people got behind it. So if you saw someone, let's say in 2010, walking around and they had this little Tom logo on the back of their shoe, you instantly thought, wow, that person cares about others. Good for them. That pair of shoes they bought, they donated a pair to a child in need. So you, by buying a pair of shoes, you were part of this mission that was bigger than yourself. Let's talk about a couple other companies. So again, this was the 2019-2020 from Tom's Shoes. Now they've expanded it. So not only have they given away over 7 million pairs of shoes, now they've started a grant program as well that's helping other causes, and they've given away over $4 million to partner causes. This was on page 7 of their annual report. So it's not an afterthought, it's part of their company. Have you guys heard of the brand Patagonia? They sell outdoor gear. These Patagonia jackets that are seen here probably are around $125. So it's a expensive brand of quality outdoor gear. They started a very unique campaign a couple years ago. They had billboards and magazine ads that said, "Don't buy this jacket." Now that seems very unique for a clothing store to make an ad that says, "Don't buy this jacket," right? That doesn't seem normal. Really what it was they were asking people to take a pledge to buy less. They were really encouraging people that if you don't need something, don't buy it, because often it ends up in landfills, it ends up in trash cans. So the message was really buy less, let's be eco-friendly, let's support our planet. They also started buying their jackets back from thrift stores, washing them, fixing buttons, fixing zippers, and had a line of Patagonia second use store. So they were encouraging people to buy secondhand Patagonia. And their company in 9 months increased sales by 1/3. So by telling people don't buy this jacket, their sales went up by 1/3. And part of that was, it's kind of a unique business model if you think about it, because they would sell their jacket, let's say for $100. Then they would go to a thrift store and they would buy that jacket back, let's say for $6. They would wash it, maybe take a stain out, replace a zipper, and they'd sell that jacket again in a Patagonia Buy Less store for $60. And so from a consumer standpoint, you're buying a used jacket, and that makes you feel good because that jacket didn't end up in a landfill. You know, it's good for the environment. I'm buying less. From a Patagonia side, they just sold that same jacket twice and made a profit off it both times. So isn't that kind of interesting when you think of it from an entrepreneur standpoint? I have one more example, and then we'll kind of get into talking about these. Warby Parker is a glasses brand that came out just a few years ago. And they had a unique business model where online you could pick out 5 pairs of glasses. They'd send them to you in a box. You could try them on at home, and then you just mail back whichever ones you didn't want. So first of all, that was a unique business model versus going to an eye care store. The glasses were less expensive at $95. We actually bought Warby Parker glasses for my daughter because it was a less expensive way to buy glasses. They were stylish. They had very good branding. So you could think that's the end of the story, but it's not. They did the same thing with a buy one, give one glasses that resonated with clients, and their business saw a 500% growth in the first year that they launched that campaign. And now they're advertising. Not only are they selling their glasses, but they're talking about how they've given away so far 500,000 glasses to people in need. So these are 3 examples, and I understand that these are, you know, multi-million national companies. I understand that, and they have a big team and dollars behind them. But I think it's good to see that when people first thought that it was crazy to do something for good for a for-profit business, these bigger companies have kind of paved the way to show that everyone wants to be a part of a bigger cause. Another example is if there's 2 bottles of water on the shelf and they're both $2, and one goes, they donate and they build wells in Africa for clean water, and the other one doesn't have a cause behind it, my buying decision, I'm more likely to buy the one that's donating to wells because I feel better about spending that money. So when we talk about where we can give money, there are so many places, so many causes. You know, it could be something local, like supporting a local sports team. It could be giving an internship to maybe people with Down syndrome or disabilities. It could be using materials that are better for the environment. It could be recycling cans. Maybe people in your community can drop off their cans to your location and you will take them to a recycling place. So again, it doesn't have to be something huge. And obviously we want it to make sense for your business, but I really encourage to begin at thinking of what can you do, and not only what can you do behind the scenes, but what can you do and how can it be a part of your story, of your brand. You know, when people, let's say the newspaper interviews you for your open house, 90% of it's going to be about your company, but that 10% should be What are you doing that's beyond yourself or beyond the profit? How are you giving back? How are you training others? How are you supporting the community? And that's going to help people make that buying decision. If it's between you or a competitor, that might be the only thing that sets you apart. But for a lot of people, that's going to be enough to make that buying decision very easy. All right, what are some aha moments, or does anyone have anything that comes to mind, or maybe local companies that are doing something like this on a smaller scale that have seen success? I can tell you just a little bit about what here at Tally, what we're doing. You know, we're not giving away anything tangible, but we are really dedicated to education and to keeping jobs local. We're here in Grand Island, Nebraska. And oftentimes our talent, when people graduate, oftentimes they move to Lincoln or Omaha for college and then they stay there. And so we're really trying, I'm on an advisory board for the high school. We go talk to students, we try to remind them that, you know, if you want to be a graphic designer or a web designer, if you want to be a commercial photographer, there are great jobs here in Grand Island. We'll give you an internship, we'll train you. We can, you know, there's projects you can work on. So part of our mission in giving back is to going out and talking to schools, to talking to students, to getting them to think outside the box. So maybe if they like graphic design, realizing that there's more jobs than just a graphic designer. You can go into illustration, you can go into product design, you can go to apparel, you can go into advertising, you know, to kind of open their mind into, you know, I'm kind of good and I kind of like messing around on the computer, opening their eyes to different opportunities, to different jobs, teaching them what it's like to work in an agency versus independent, teaching them what it's like to be an employee versus being self-contracted or subcontracted. So part of our mission is just to really things that we wish we would have had when we were in high school. When you think, you know, when you're in high school, your idea of jobs are very limited and very small. It's usually what you can see, what you know of friends and family. And so part of our mission is just really opening young people's eyes to this field, to show them possibilities and hopefully keep them local, even if it's keeping them in Nebraska, making them realize that they don't have to go to Chicago or New York to have a successful job. The more talent we can keep here in Nebraska, it's going to help taxpayers' dollars stay local. It's going to improve our state. It's going to make a better community. And so that's part of our mission. All right, does anyone else have anything else they want to share before we kind of go back to?
Yeah, so one of those business models that's kind of attractive here in Lincoln, Nebraska is Open Harvest health food grocery store. So I think their campaign would be considered buy local.
Okay.
And what they do is they have a lot of like small independent producers of like groceries, and like I know there was someone locally who makes barbecue sauce, or someone locally who makes hot sauce, or someone locally who makes salad dressing.
Right.
And then a lot of the little small restaurants that are like independent are trying to shop from Open Harvest as well, so they can buy local.
That's right.
It becomes a attractive advertisement theme for all the businesses that actually work together on that to buy local, you know?
Absolutely. And even if you spend a little bit more there than you would at Super Saver, or even if, you know, it's a little bit out of your way, you're still probably more likely to go there if shopping local is important to you. And when you leave with those groceries, you're going to feel a sense of pride or whatever that good feeling is when you leave, knowing that if you bought local honey, you're supporting that bee keeper versus buying something from Walmart, right? And so I know last week or a couple weeks ago when we talked about customer service and people are willing to pay more for customer service, people are willing to pay more if there's a good cause behind it and if that cause is communicated. right? Because we know we can probably get things cheaper at Walmart, but if I'm supporting local and that's important to me, then that's going to make that buying decision. Now, everyone has things that are important to them, and every single person, it's different. And so buying local to someone may be very important. You could talk to someone next to them and buying local isn't that big of a deal. They might even have some, way to justify why it's not or whatever that is. And we just have to remember that we can't convince people what should be important to them. That's everyone's decision, right? And so the first of all is we have to make a great product at a great price with a great business model. That's for everyone, right? That's our first step. We can't be targeted to only target the people with the cause, because that's going to be a pretty small demographic. But knowing that there's going to be enough of that demographic, if it's something that we're passionate about, that it might make that buying decision easier, it might set us apart from competition, and it might get our name out there. So one example from a restaurant perspective, and I know that there's a lot of liability, I know there's things like that we have to be careful of, but again, maybe it's finding a way to donate extra ingredients to a food pantry. Or maybe it's a way of having one day where meals are free to someone in need. Maybe it's a once a year you do something like that. It doesn't have to be a daily thing. I know there's a pizza restaurant in New York that I've seen come up on my, Facebook watch, where you can donate $1 and they put a Post-it note on the wall, and anyone who's homeless or in need can come in and take that Post-it note and get a piece of pizza. And that pizza shop has made worldwide news because they do that. Now in New York City, there's probably 1,000 other pizza shops that we're not talking about. But today we're talking about the one who lets other people donate $1, put a Post-it note on the wall, and they feel good leaving knowing that not only did they get their pizza, but they're giving a piece of pizza to someone in need. So that's a part of their shift for good. And it's something people talk about. If I was in New York, I might go to that pizza shop because it's the only one I've heard about. And I think it's really cool that they're making that extra effort to do something for good. All right. So now we need to kind of think about, what cause is important to us. What's not. You have to be careful with that because there are so many things. And if you start stretching yourself every which way, it's not going to have the effectiveness that it is. And so I would really encourage you to take some time and think about what's important to you, what's important to your family, what's important to your community, what's important in the longevity of your business, things like that. And think about that. And then think small. Is it a one-time event you could do? Is it, maybe you and your employees, maybe if your passion is cancer research, maybe you and your employees make t-shirts and you all go do, a run that raises money for cancer. You put your logo on the back of the t-shirt. It's an advertising expense. So as your team of 5 are running in your neon pink shirts with your logo on them, that's something that you're doing and you're communicating that your business cares about that. Now, you're not doing it to get business, but odds are someone at that race is going to have that, hey, that's important to me too, and they're going to call you just from that. So this is just a quick demonstration of what Americans say they care about. Now, if this isn't what you care about, throw it out the window. It doesn't matter. But it is kind of interesting to see the percentage of what people care about. So people care about youth and families. I think in this you could also include just people in general, homeless population, domestic violence, human trafficking, anything that affects people, daycare, playground equipment, schools, after school programs, diapers, all this kind of stuff could include something like that. Then next is animals, which I think that's a little bit interesting that that's tied with medical research. But if you think about, people care about shelters, they care about animals, they care about pit bull rescues, that's all important. Then you have medical research, which is going to be your, your cancer research or any kind of disease. And again, you can be very specific. If there's something that's affected you specifically, you might want to choose that. Education, this could be scholarship programs, this could be after school programs, this could be on the job training. Disaster relief, there's always needs for this, whether it's donating your time and going and helping with an area that's been flooded or donating dollars, either way. Even it could be handing out bottles of water after a tornado. We have talked about this just because Grand Island area got hit really hard with floods a few years ago. And when a disaster happens, there's no bottled water at the store. That's when it's hard to get that stuff. So we've even talked about, what if we bought a couple $100 of bottled water, put it in storage. Hopefully we don't need it, but if a disaster did hit, we would be ready and we wouldn't have to be at the store competing with everyone else to get that water. So it'd kind of be good in both ways. You can talk about human rights, any kind. This could be political. I would really encourage you to not go into the political realm, but any kind, again, human trafficking, child abuse, anything that involves betterment for humans, the environment, and then global health. And again, the global health, that's going to be where Warby Parker and Tom Shoes, they fell in that category, giving shoes and giving glasses around the world to people in need. And so if you think about that, both of those industries made millions, billions off of the 3% of people who say that they care about global health. And then if we think of the Patagonia example, that was an environment issue. That was at the 6%, the lowest percent. And so they still had a very successful business model with the smallest of what this shows that charitable people care about most. Now, again, when you think on a community level, if you're really focused on the community, you could make an even bigger impact. So like if you're in Lincoln, Nebraska, you could pick one charity in Lincoln, Nebraska that's well known. You could volunteer there, you could wear your t-shirt there, you could donate there, and that would make a very big impact on people in Lincoln, Nebraska, because they're going to connect the two of you together. So kind of thinking on if you want to go global, if you want to go nationally, or if you want to go worldwide. But I think starting in your own communities is a great place to start. It's also a great way to build relationships, to make connections, to find like-minded people. And anytime that people see that it's more than about the dollars, you actually care, you're giving back, they're going to be more likely to support your business as well. All right. So again, just to kind of wrap up today, and then let's have some time for discussion and questions. But let's go back to the very beginning and remember that, it used to be you are a for-profit or you are a nonprofit. And there was a very, very, very clear black and white line between the two. You were one or the other. And just like talking about those waffle squares, if you wanted to donate to a good cause, that was outside of work. That was outside of your business. That was completely separate. And it used to be kind of whatever you chose to donate to was kind of your own business, right? It wasn't publicly. And now we can see the shift in other ways. I don't really want to get into the political realm, but it used to be that your business was completely separate than your political views, right? And now we can see that it's more like pizza. And we have to be very careful to not let our political views go into our business or our, not just political, but any kind of things that we care about, religion or anything like that. It used to be, again, if I talked to my grandpa and I said, at work, we were sitting around talking about the vaccine or talking about politics or talking about racial injustice. My grandpa would say, why the heck are you talking about that at work? That's not a work conversation, right? Because that used to be your political life, your religious life, your donation life was completely separate. It was in a different waffle box. But now it's all kind of intermixed. And so we have to do our best to mix it in the right way. You know, we don't want to get into politics, religion, all of those kind of things as much as we can. But if you do, you know, it's going to affect your business one way or the other. But when it comes to giving, that's something everyone can get on board with. Again, it really all started with Blake saying that we can do both. Everyone thought he was crazy, and his business model proved. There's documentaries about Tom's shoes. It'd be interesting for you to go online and read about it. He really broke that glass ceiling and proved that it's a profitable way to do business. So let's challenge ourselves this week to really talk about it, have some conversations, maybe plan something, even if it's small, to find somewhere in the middle. And then the next step of that is, once we determine what that's going to be, figure out a way to advertise that well. Not that we need the spotlight, but just knowing, I like to think of it as, you don't advertise it because you're trying to get the spotlight. You're advertising it so that other people can join you. And people want to join a good effort. So we're more allowing people to be a part of this great mission than trying to use the mission to better ourselves, right? If you think of a charity run, how many people want to be a part of that? You know, could you imagine if the founder of the organization said, I'm going to raise money for breast cancer and I'm going to run all by myself. I'm going to run a 5K all by myself. You know, not only would you not raise enough funds, but you're really not allowing everyone else that wants to be a part of that 5K to enjoy that experience, to give. Also think of the other things that happen. It creates community, it creates support. If you know anyone that's gone through maybe a cancer fundraiser for themselves, you know, yes, they might have raised some money that day, but what did they raise more, right? They raised support, they raised love, they raised awareness. And so we really have to think about this for good. You know, it's bigger than us. And I think at the end of the day, it's something we can be really proud of. All right, we have about 10 minutes left. Does anyone want to share any takeaways today, any aha moments or light bulb moments? Anything that they want to implement, or again, that they've seen other businesses implement?
I thought of Bomba socks while you were talking about
Yes.
that. They've done that. Donate one and sell one. And I don't know, they must make a lot of money because they're advertising on TV quite a bit.
Right? Yes, that's a part of their mission now. Absolutely. And those are not cheap socks, you know, but people are probably more likely to spend a few dollars more knowing that it gives for good.
Yeah, I could see where like airing out your political views can have a huge impact on your business too, because you could think of all these business owners that are for Trump for like even just tax purposes only. If they start, when they start saying that they're for Trump, automatically everyone, the whole, you know, there's a huge part of their customer base that automatically doesn't want to do business with them anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you even have to be careful because you probably cut your people will think, well, 50% will, but that's not the case, because you'll lose the 50% who maybe don't agree with you, but you'll also lose people who just don't want to get into that battle. They don't want to get into that fight. They don't want to, you know, it's a kind of a turnoff. And so not only do you lose the people that don't agree with you, you're also going to lose a large percentage of people who don't agree with how you're doing it.
Yeah.
So even if they agree with you politically, they maybe don't agree with the word you're using, the tone you're using, how you're doing it. And so you're probably going to lose out, even if we see conservatively, half of the people who do agree with you, but don't agree with how you're doing it. So again,
And I just wanted to add, because I know when I do different events like for feeding single moms or feeding first responders, or like we did an event for for National Single Parents Day, and we gave out 150 meals. I teamed up with another food truck that's new in town, and like the news stations reach out to me when I do certain things, you know, and that provide, you know, it's just something that I was doing for the community, not for like recognition, but it definitely helped get my name more out there because, you know, it was on the news. So it's more than just you know, people seeing or following my Facebook page, and if they're not on Facebook, you know, they really don't know me except through word of mouth, you know. And sometimes you have to really ask customers, hey, can you share a review? Or if you like what you've tried, you know, tell someone else, you know. Just really trying to get people to really respond, you know, because sometimes they may really not think about how big of a deal that is to you know, share their reviews on what they've had.
Absolutely. And we talk a lot in our office about what press is worth. A quarter page ad in the newspaper for one day runs around $700. And so if you can get the news to come out and cover your story and do a story on you, that's worth a lot more than an ad. Now, if you think about what it costs to produce and pay for a TV commercial, you know, you're probably talking a couple $1,000s. But if you can get a news crew to come out and see your event, and let's say that you run on the news, that's thousands of dollars worth of publicity that you're getting. And so again, not that you're doing the event for the publicity, but let's say that you donate $1,000 worth of food, but that gets you in the newspaper and some Facebook posts and everything. That return on investment will come back to you. Not that it's guaranteed. And we really recommend, there's two different ways you can get the news to notice you. You can do a news announcement. And really what that is you email out to the news stations or the newspapers, and it's just simply an email that says who, what, where, when, why. Hey, we're a food truck. We're going to be at this location at this day, at this time, and this is why. And you might want to type up about 2 paragraphs of what you're doing. Now, when you do that news announcement, they email that out. They'll share that out to reporters, to photographers, and that's kind of a gamble. If it's a slow day for news, they are looking for stories. So let's say that you email that out. Let's say you're in Lincoln, Nebraska, and let's say that you email that out to 10 people and 2 show up. That's 2 news stations that show up for 1 email. You typically want to do that about a week in advance and then send it again the day before. And you could even send it the morning of, because a week in advance kind of puts it on their radar. The day before, they might be planning on it. And then that morning of, if nothing else happens, if there's no major car accident or no major fire, whatever, they're desperate for stories. And so they may come cover you. The other thing to do is to do a press release, and that's where you actually type up an article. Again, think of the path of least resistance. If you're a news reporter and someone sends you a typed article with 2 images attached, there's your work for the day. You could literally copy and paste that, or they might call you and interview you and ask some questions. When you do a press release, they can either publish the press release or they can do an interview from it. But we have found that we typically write it as if it's a newspaper article, because oftentimes they will copy and paste that and put it right into the newspaper. And if they're copying and pasting what you're writing, it's going to be more accurate. It's going to highlight what you want even better than if they'd come to an interview. Because if they come to an interview, they could get sideswiped on something else, or they could, oftentimes maybe they put a date in wrong, or they misspell someone's name or whatever. So if you can provide them the press release and all they have to do is copy and paste that, that's easy for them and it's a win for you. And so I would start getting your local papers, even in a small community, sometimes places like clubs or Lions clubs or Chamber of Commerce, sometimes they're looking for articles for their newsletter. So even just sending them an article, and if they use it, great. And if they don't, that's okay. But absolutely. And not only does that help you and your cause, but again, it brings more awareness to to everything. I don't know if I've told you this before, but we used to have cost cutters. They used to give bikes for big brothers, big sisters, and they would donate about 100 bikes every year, which is a big deal. But then we got some press to come cover the event. And so many people reached out and said, I have a bike, I'll donate a bike. I want it. So just by getting it on news and getting it in the newspaper, not only did it give cost cutters good publicity, but that year, instead of donating 100 bikes, they donated almost 1,000 bikes that year, because people want to be a part of something good. Again, picture somebody running a 5K by themselves, and then picture the whole crowd running the 5K. People want to be involved in good.
That's so true, because also like the next time that I did the feeding of first responders and stuff, like I had somebody just come in and give me a check for $500, you know, which allowed me to be able to do it the next time, you know, because, and rather than it constantly coming out of the business pocket, you know, it that really helped to be able to provide the next time we got ready to do that. And the news stations, they have always reached out to me. Like I haven't even had to actually send them. Like they follow me on Facebook, you know, they inbox me about what I have going on. We're doing a college fair where we're getting ready to give away a scholarship. And I teamed up with another company in town also, and they're going to give a scholarship at our college fair. So it's always, people always, they always like to see you giving back, you know, and it's always great to impact the community by giving back, because that's the community that's also supporting you and helping you stay in business as well.
That's right. And think of other businesses that can't do what you do. So let's say that, like Josh, let's use you for an example. You're going to put gutters, and let's say that you decide that you're going to donate gutters to a Habitat for Humanity house. And let's say that you're going to do that. It's going to take one day, and they'll probably pay for your materials, but you're just going to donate your time to hang these gutters, because that's something you can donate. Well, let's say that you have your insurance office. They can't hang gutters, but they want to be a part of it. So they might even sponsor, you know, you to do it. And so there could be ways, if you think of banks, insurance offices, kind of think of people that work in offices, you know, they want to give back, but an insurance office can't go give insurance, right? But they could give, they could sponsor you, they could sponsor an event, they could sponsor the food that you're going to give away, they could sponsor the diapers that you're doing for a diaper drive. We work with a dentist office here in town, and they did around Christmas time, they just put a big box in their lobby for socks. And they wanted people to donate socks. And so as their people came in for the dentist, they'd throw socks in, their staff brought socks. So it doesn't necessarily even have to be a dentist office and socks. They don't necessarily go together, but they don't have to. So just because you're a gutter company, that doesn't mean that you can't, you know, donate food, or they don't have to necessarily go together. But when you think of donating your talent, oftentimes they do, or it could be some kind of combination, you know, where again, diapers are an easy thing to get, socks are an easy thing. Think of things that, you know, there's a big need for, that you can communicate that for. Absolutely. Well, did you guys learn something today? Did this kind of get some wheels spinning? Yeah, so let's kind of keep that, and let's set a goal to do one thing this year that's going to be for good, and start doing, even if it's small, even if it's a sock drive. Let's do something for good. Let's work toward getting the communication out, sharing our hearts behind it. Why are we donating socks? Do some research on how many people don't have socks or need socks. Let's do some research behind it. And then let's also do the publicity so that others can get involved. Let's not do publicity to put the spotlight on us. That's going to happen naturally. But let's put publicity on this so that we're inviting others to do more good and hopefully get that snowball in motion. All right, does anyone have any questions or anything else?
Hey, Julie, I'd just like to thank you for your 6 weeks of great instruction and enlightening everybody. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and put up the link for this class is in the chat box. And then I'm also going to, and I can sure send that out as well. I'm also going to go ahead and put my contact information up here again. So if you don't know how to get a hold of me, feel free. And if you do something for good, let's say that you do sponsor something, please share it with me and we'd be happy to share it through our Facebook page or through our email list as well. The more we can partner up together and share that information, the better.
Thank you so much for taking the time. Again, we are hosting a college fair on May 1st at City Impact in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'll be giving a $500 scholarship away, and Mary Ellen's, I invited other businesses to get involved in giving scholarships, but Mary Ellen stepped up, so they'll also be giving us scholarship. So we're really excited about that opportunity. This is something we want to do yearly. My scholarship is blessed to be a blessing. So we want to make sure that that's something we're able to do yearly for graduating seniors and hopefully eventually even open it up, maybe to more that are even adults that are looking to go back to school. I think would be really good. But I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out. I know I wasn't able to make every Zoom, but it's always important when we're able to get the kind of information that you're able to provide to help continue to grow our businesses and advance.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see where your businesses are a year from now. So please keep in touch and we'll keep you posted if we do another series down the road. And all right. Well, everyone go out there, do some good and help each other. Let's partner together and just make this world a better place, right? That's always the goal. All right. Well, have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all this education you're giving us.
Absolutely.